Throughout most of my life, I've never really been a film guy. I've never had the patience to sit down for a couple of hours and watch a film. It doesn't really captivate me that much. But over the last 10 years, there have been a handful of films that I have watched and I've been able to learn some lessons from them. One of these being Paid in Full. Obviously, Paid in Full's got three main characters. You got Ace, Mitch, you got Rico. But if you look at the way that Ace moves throughout the film, there's a lot of lessons you can learn from him. One of the lessons I learned from him is that you always need to, when you're in business, when you're trying to be successful, whatever you're doing, when you're making money, any substantial money, you always want to stay low key and flex occasionally. Now, why do I say that? If I look at the film, you got those three characters. One of them ends up dead. One of them ends up in jail. Only one of them survives. That's Ace. Of those three, you could see that Ace was the most laid back. He was the least flamboyant of all three. He knew that, okay, he needs to keep things on the quiet. He doesn't want things to get too hot. He doesn't want to have beef with people in his inner circle. So he needs to just keep a low key. I remember even in the film when he's working in the dry cleaners, he goes to Lulu to return some of the white powder that Lulu had. And then he says to Lulu that he's quite surprised that he's selling this stuff because he dresses really nice, but his demeanor is very calm. He doesn't understand it. Because if you look earlier in the film, Calvin, who's a bit more loud, who's a bit more boisterous, he goes to jail. So Ace is thinking that, yo, you got to be like that if you want to be serving, you want to be making money. But he realizes from Lulu that you got to just stay low key. And him staying low key was able to actually sustain his business. And eventually, even though people around him died, sadly, he was the only one that remained. He was the only one that got out. He was the only one that had the wits about him and was smart enough. He was able to see moves before they were going to happen as well. And that comes from him being calm and him just being aware that there's going to be other people that are jealous around him. So I think whenever you're trying to make money, keep it on the low. There's no benefit of letting other people know. When you're too loud, people around you are going to start envying you and they're going to do what they can to see your demise. And then the greed could come. Like, you could be someone like Rico. Rico was so greedy, he ends up taking out Mitch, which was insane. Then he tried to lie to Ace about it. Ace sets him up at the end. Ace goes free. So again, you got to stay low key and flex occasionally. Even if I take this into corporate business, looking at people like Mark Zuckerberg, looking at people like Warren Buffett, these guys are very simple guys. They're very unassuming. You wouldn't assume these guys are billionaires. They wear the same clothes every day. You might see them and think these guys are poor, but they're not, because these guys, they stay low key. The only time they flex is when you actually speak to them and you realize that these guys are rich, but they're very unassuming. And that's just the way it should be, man. Other people don't need to know about your successes.